let's see that what is 73rd and 74 amendment. Here under Mandal recommendation, when Rajiv Gandhi was the prime minister, he wanted to see the development of every part of India. Under it, he wanted to introduce local self-government institutions, local self-governments. So finally, this amendments, 73rd and 74 amendments relating to the local self-governments implemented during PV Narasimha Rao's period. In 1992, PV Narasimha Rao government passed these 73rd amendment and 74 amendment. In 1992, PV Narasimha Rao's government implemented 73rd amendment and 74 amendment. 73rd amendment permits to create local self-governments at village level, that is at a rural area. And 74th constitutional amendment also same like 73rd, creating the local self-governments government institutions at towns and cities. So these were path-breaking amendments. First time we see that there at local level, the government formed by the elected representatives through universal adult franchise. And here, one third of the seats also reserved for women in local self-government institutions. Certain seats are reserved for SCs and STs also. State governments, they treated it is an account and it was left to the states to decide on what functions and powers to be given to the respective local self-government institutions. When 73rd and 74 amendment were created, state governments felt that it is an attempt of the central government to reduce the powers of the state government. So to remove such kind of a feeling from the state governments, central government have left for the state governments only to decide what functions and powers will be assigned to the local self governments. So now it is there in the hands of the state governments. So state governments decides what power should be given to the local self governments as per the 73rd and 74 amendment. So these amendments helped to extend the power to great decentralization. Now the power is not with the central and state alone. Power is divided and distributed from the central to states and states to the local self-government institutions. Local self-government institutions are created for rural area and for urban area. For rural area, we find a village panchayats, panchayat raj institutions, right? Then Mandal Parishad, Jilla Parishad, like this. Coming to the towns and cities, we find municipal corporations and municipal councils instead. So in this way, local self-governments created for towns and cities using 74 amendment and 73 amendment for rural area in 1992. This is very important. You will get question in examination, what do you know of 73 amendment and 74 amendment? Okay, next, moving to the economic liberalization. Okay, we also seen that in this period, what to call religion entered into the politics, right? They are the parties, political parties have bended to the religious aspects. BJP led Radha Yatra for constructing Lord Rama temple, right? So with the Lord Rama temple, the BJP had won 120 seats gradually, and today it is in power, right? So we see that here LK Advani, who was the leader of BJP, uh, so who was the leader of BJP, LK Advani, he conducted a Radha Yatra, and that Radha Yatra from Somnath to what to call Ayodhya, that was suspended at Bihar. There, at that time, VP Singh's government was there. So VP Singh's government, in VP Singh's government, BJP also one part. So as the LK Advani was arrested, BJP had withdrawn its support to VP Singh's government to show its response uh, to the arrest of LK Advani. So when BJP withdrawn its support, VP Singh's government what to call fallen from the power because it's a coalition government, right? So when BJP withdrew support, the government lost its majority, so it stepped from the power. So after VP Singh's Chandrasekhar Azad became the prime minister, and he also continued the government for near about within the 1 year only. Then after we see that PV Narasimha Rao in 1991, their what to call VP Singh's government falling after their severe problem has come in India. That is, our financial resources have ended. Totally, India was in economic crisis. There was no single NP with us. Okay, we what to call paid what to call money to the foreign countries through which we have imported, right? And we have to pay money for our imports, right? And we have taken loan from the other foreign countries and banks, world banks, so that should be repaid, right? So India was not able to repay the loan, so that was a critical situation. india India would have turned to default in payments to the foreign countries. That was a very critical situation. Okay, there was no single NP with our Indian government. Total, our foreign reserves have exhausted in paying that one. Still, we need to pay for imports and for the loans we have taken from foreign countries instead. So around this time, in 1992, it was a time that the new Congress government with the leadership of PV Narasimha Rao was formed, and PV Narasimha Rao opened a new what to call trend into the Indian politics and Indian economy. That is economic liberalization. Which one? Economic liberalization. He PV Narasimha Rao. Look at the figure 18.8. Formula Parthi Venkata Narasimha Rao. So he was the Prime Minister of India in 1992. It was a very critical time. We need to appreciate the work of the PV Narasimha Rao. Understand? Very great Prime Minister. Okay, he pulled out India from the what to call financial crisis. Total, our economy was at the edge of collapse. Okay, there would be chance of becoming getting a symbol to India that India would turn to default in payments, right? So from that situation today, we are in good position because of the PV Narasimha Rao. Understand? He talked to what to call International Monetary Fund, which we call a World Bank, right? IMF, International Monetary Fund, which is called World Bank. So here PV Narasimha Rao negotiated with IMF, and here requested for IMF to sanction funds for loans to overcome the economic crisis instead. So here we see that IMF what to call agreed to give loans to India on certain conditions which are very important and stringent conditions, very strict conditions laid by International Monetary Fund, and those strict conditions call here structural adjustment programs. What we call structural adjustment programs, in which strict conditions uh, imposed by the IMF. So what are those strict conditions here? Okay, first one is IMF kept a condition on Indian government to reduce the government expenditure. There is a drastic reduction in government expenditure. It means government started reducing its expenditure on developmental activities instead. So it is not ordinary. Okay, to a great extent, government had reduced its expenditure. That is what you call at that time our government cut the subsidies to farmers. Okay, and public services, for example laying the roads, uh, then what you call constructing the hospitals, right, and providing street lights, providing education. So for all these there is a great expenditure will come. So government reduce its expenditure as per the conditions of IMF, International Monetary Fund. The first condition laid by World Bank, that is drastic reduction of government expenditure. Second is reducing restrictions and taxes on imports from foreign countries. India is allowed for foreign goods. That means foreign goods which are not allowed freely to Indian market after 1992. Their foreign goods are dumped to Indian market. That means the restrictions, what you call controls, which laid on foreign goods import to India, those were lifted. There was a tax also on foreign goods. Foreign companies were what to call foreign companies have to pay tax to Indian government for selling their goods in Indian market. So this was lifted because of the World Bank. So many developed countries have surplus of goods, so they want to sell their surplus goods to Indian market. India was not able to produce the goods for itself, so they forced the World Bank to impose rules and conditions on India to allow the foreign goods. So with the multinational companies and foreign countries, IMF laid stringent means strict conditions on India. So Indian government accepted those conditions because we want loan from the World Bank to overcome our economic crisis, so that their taxes on foreign goods, then restrictions on foreign goods lifted by Indian government. That is the second, okay, reducing restrictions. Third is reducing restrictions on foreign investment also. Many MNCs, multinational companies are allowed to Indian market to invest. Okay, today we see that many multinational companies are in Indian market, right? For example, Nike T-shirt, understand? Then Apple company, mobiles company, okay. Then we see that Redmi company, understand? Then what we see that here automobile companies, and in oil, Cargill Food Company of America. This we'll discuss in a globalization lesson. So several multinational companies, they entered into the Indian market in producing the goods. It's not only selling the foreign goods in Indian market, but also producing goods in India. That is called foreign investment. Some of the multinational companies have invested into the Indian local companies. Okay, so in that way, what to call Indian economy was opened for world economy. Our Indian economy tied with the world economy. Okay, by removing the restrictions and removing the taxes. That what we call liberalization. So liberalization policy started here. Okay, and another thing is that there was opening of many sectors of Indian economy into the private sector. Okay, have you heard that once upon a time there was a 6 rupees for incoming call? For receiving incoming call, consumers have paid 6 rupees instant. Today we see that a revolution has come in telecom department, that telephone communication is allowed for private sector. Right? Today we see that Reliance, Jio, Airtel, what to call Tata Docomo, like this, several private companies allowed to invest into the what to call telephonic services, banking services, and airline services. So today we find private banks along with the government public sector banks instead. Yeah, we find private airlines also instead. So our liberalization policy allowed many of the private investors investing into the telephonic communication, banking, and airlines instead. In that way, we see the sectors, what to call the economies which were in which government was a monopoly. That means only government only invested into these sectors. Now private sector is allowed. So what happens here? We find there would be a competition between government and private instead. So many of the sectors which were under government control earlier, those open to private sector under economic liberalization instead. So these measures brought in foreign goods. Under economic liberalization, we see what happened. Many of the foreign goods dumped into the Indian market. Okay, and forced the Indian business to compete with the global manufacturers. That means India opened its door to foreign companies and foreign goods. That means Indian goods entered into competition with the foreign goods. Indian traders allowed to compete with the foreign traders. So there a competition started with the global manufacturers in India. So it also led to setting up industries and businesses by foreign companies in India. Have you heard that Hero Honda company, Honda of what to call Japan, tied with the Hero of India, and it become Hero Honda company at that time. Okay, and another thing is that Maruti Suzuki, right? Suzuki of a foreign country, an MNC, tied with this Maruti Automobile of India, and it became Maruti Suzuki at that time. Okay, during the what 1992's time. Now these companies have turned to multinational companies. Even our Indian local companies also turn to MNCs with the opening of economic liberalization. Of course, we see some local companies have got a loss, and some local companies vanished. Those were undertaken completely by the what to call MNCs instead. So there is two kinds of impact in India with the economic liberalization instead. So here we see that their foreign companies, multinational companies have set up industries and business in India. Okay, and it is also mean that a lot of hardship for the common people, because the government had cut its subsidies to the people. Many factories were closed down because of dumping of foreign goods at cheap rate. See, Chinese toys and Indian toys. Indian toys produced by Indian manufacturers in India. Chinese toys produced by Chinese manufacturers at China dumped to Indian market at a cheap rate. Chinese mobiles have come to Indian market. Chinese ties have come to Indian market. So like this, various goods dumped to Indian market at cheap rate. So our local companies unable to compete with the cheap foreign goods, they got loss and they closed their factories. Okay, and this led to what a privatization of many public amenities, right? Education, which was only under government sector, today we find it is in public sector and private sector, right? Today we have private schools and government schools, right? So government was not able to invest its funds on education, so it welcomed the what private sector. Even to health also, right? Many multi uh, corporation level hospitals we have, understand. Even to transport also. So in into many public sectors, government have opened what a private, that means selling the sectors which were under a government to the private sector. So today we see that the privatization started. In every aspect, we find that the privatization is going on. So privatization increased here, right? And it is also claimed that the government is selling some profitable sectors to the private sector also. That is also their a claim. Okay. So the 20th century closed with an India which was drawn into the world market, right? We entered into 20th century by opening Indian market into the foreign what to call world market, right? So here we see that our democracy is struggling to overcome these all the problems, understand, in which we find the voices of different sections of the population, right? And here we see that the political parties which moved with the communal politic mobilization that become a threat for social peace, right? With the construction LK Advani's arrest and BJP's decision to construct for Lord Rama temple, that somewhat damaged the what to call relations between Hindus and Muslims. Instead, finally, the judgment have given in favor of the what construction of the Lord temple, right? So we see that in politics, religion has entered, right? So we see that it had stood for the test time for over 50 years and had built a relatively stable economy. In Sri Lanka, ninth class, we have seen that they have followed the policy preferring to majority people, so the Sri Lankan economy collapsed, right? Where majoritarian versus and inclusiveness we have seen. In India too, the world observing that whether the democracy will survive, whether the economy of India will be stable or not. So our democracy succeeded, right? Because we have overcome the economic crisis and able to keep our economy stable one. Okay, and what the democracy deeply rooted into the Indian politics, right? Still we have so many problems which have to be solved, right? That is, poverty is there. What we have? Poverty we have. This has to end. Inequalities we have. This should come to end. Caste differences, community differences, regional imbalances, gender differences. These problems still we have. We are struggling to overcome all these problems instead. So the 20th century opened Indian politics to move with some other problems which have not soluted till now. That is poverty, inequality, caste communities instead. So what we see that the 50 years of a post-independence period left to the 20th century with the different problems, that is poverty, etc. Understand? So finally what we have seen this chapter is we have seen that Indian democracy has been able to stand with numerous challenges. One party dominance to multi-party system has come, right? And we see that their coalition governments have emerged, and elections in elections voting percentage has increased, right? So Indian democracy called for a successful democracy, understand, through many indications, because we have free and fair and regular elections. At every 5 years we are conducting elections regularly in a fair manner. That is success of democracy, right? From 1951 to till today, if you see that the voters turnover during the election has increased. That means many of the people are coming forward to cast their vote. That means people have shown their confidence in democracy. That is success of democracy. Understand? And governments turnovers, governments are changing. Right? Once we started with the Congress rule, today we have the BJP rule. Understand? Several political parties have come into power. Understand? So there is empowerment of new groups in Indian politics, right? That we have seen, right? BJP has formed a government now, right? Congress government has gone, coalition governments have come, UPA and NDA instead, and what to call providing essential civil liberties. But turn to the century, there were many questions to Indian democracy today. That is, what to call, we see that India tackle the increasing tension between contradictory demands. The what you call the development is going to be achieved for all around people or not, right? Still we need to overcome social and economic equalities. We have social equality, inequality, and economic inequality we have. So these two be removed in further. We are expecting that we have to overcome this one. Okay.